Three, two, one. All right, welcome everyone to the Refinery. It is a Tuesday night at 8:30 in beautiful Texas. Beautiful, almost fall day here, and we get a couple of days like that a year, so we have to enjoy them. Anyway, I'm here. I'm Leslie, and we've got JD and Felicia, and Corey and Andy are both there. Ryan will probably maybe be along later. He has moved to a new house somewhere in the wilds of Utah. And I would love it if T could come along and join us, but she might not be able to. She's got very busy Tuesdays going on. And it kind of has to do with elections that are coming up. And I think everybody wanted to start talking about that. We've postponed it as long as we possibly could. And now it's like 6 to 7 weeks, 7 weeks before the election. And we should probably stop talking about potential presidential candidates. We'll have 2 years, which is more than enough to talk about that crap. We need to talk about the Senate races, and if we're going to take the Senate, how we're going to do it, and the other local races that are every bit as important, if not more so, to your daily life, and what we can do on that. I think JD and Felicia spent some time talking about that this week. Why don't you guys take it off?
Yeah, it's been, we've seen the build up. We've heard about all of the polls. There's been just a ton of speculation about what's going to happen. Are we going to see a Republican wave? Is it going to be another, sucker punch of an election year for us? And what we've been talking about, what Fishy and I have been talking about, is really been the fact that we, in order to make the wave happen, we really need to participate in in these elections and go out there and volunteer and be active in order to get these people elected. That's something that maybe we don't really touch on as much. It's not a sexy issue in the
Right.
conservative blogosphere by any stretch of the imagination to talk about people phone banking or people walking down the block and knocking on doors and talking about the election to their neighbors. So that's something that I would really like to bring up. I know personally I've been getting into it recently here in New Jersey. I actually was at a fundraiser for Jeff Bell last week, which was very, very interesting and really well attended. A lot of youth in the movement were there and really excited about going out there. And Chris Christie was there and really sort of did what he needed to do to get everybody activated and ready to go and do those things, the knocking on the doors, the putting up signs, the making the phone calls, which are extremely necessary, again, as I said, if we intend to win this November. I think that we, as I said, it's not something that we talk about much in the blogosphere, but it is of vital importance to have these people to go out there and knock on doors and how we present ourselves and how we talk to people on the phones. I don't know how many people here have phone banked before. I know Fishy has. I know I have. Leslie, have you?
I okay, I was muted. Sorry about that. So you didn't hear the brilliance that I said, and I'll never have that brilliance again. Anyway, um, no, actually, I did phone banking when I was in high school for one of the Texas gubernatorial candidates, um, possibly even Clayton Williams. I was not a smart child. Um, but and then I've done some phone banking, not in recent years, but for um, congressional candidates here locally. And that was the kind where it's go into their office, the olden days where you go into their offices and you use the printed out lists that they have on paper and the printed up script. And it's, mostly you get answer machines. So you just leave a message on the answer machine reminding people that the election is coming up and they really need to vote and it's oh so important. And everybody's very, very nice when you get them on the phone because they're Republican voters that we're calling our people is what we're not calling the other side. And I think that's what scares people about it is that they're thinking that they're going to have to be like persuading people and they aren't up on the issues and
Yeah, I think that that definitely has something to do with it. Plus, I mean, not everyone is prepared for whatever reason to cold call people at dinner time or whenever, and that's something that you are going to have to do. That's when people are around. That's when people can get to their phones. So while it is
that's why
a little bit,
marketers call you at dinner time. Yes, that's why they
yes,
do
it's
it.
because
They've
you're
studied
there.
it.
Yes. So going through the script, and it's very important uh, to be nice, to not be frustrated, to not be upset, and to try and actually be a person while you're out there and making these phone calls.
My
But
name is
people might
Lisa. I'm
not.
calling with the Republican Party of Texas. I'm calling to remind you that there's an election coming on Tuesday, and John Doe needs your vote. It's really very important. Goodbye.
That's no. That's the exact opposite. That's not what you want to do. No, you want to be high energy, but don't overwhelm people. Oh, Andy, I'm sure
Well,
you have some.
I just lead in by telling them if they want Spanish to hit two. I never really get
Uh,
past that, but that's what I like to lead with.
uh,
You're
yes, that's extremely effective when you're trying to contact voters. They love it when you go with something like that. No, it's
No,
these
that no,
scripts are
wait,
really
wait,
easy
wait,
to
wait.
follow.
That's putting out the message that conservatives care about Hispanics, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Uh,
If you would like to hear this message in Spanish, press 2. If you would like to hear this message in language that women understand, press 3.
oh wow,
Whoa, you went there. That's awesome.
Um,
yeah.
yeah, well, for
Um,
all of his silliness, he's actually quite good at phone banking.
yeah, it's not terribly difficult to do. It's something that, I mean, you just sort of sit there and in an hour you go through a lot of phone calls, and
You,
you don't even, I mean, it's not a whole lot of work. It's something that anybody can do, and it's fun.
yeah, I think it's easier to make the calls earlier in the election cycle. I did a lot of phone banking for a House district candidate, and the people that I talked to for that were really quite friendly and okay with getting the calls. But the closer it got to the presidential election in 2012, the more angry people started to get because they had oversaturated the market. Part of the problem there was that there was a lot of crisscrossing. So you had the Romney campaign calling the same people that the local candidates were calling, that the county GOP was calling, that the precinct leaders were calling, and so you had all of this duplication. And so by the time it was the day of get out the vote, I mean, I had people screaming at me.
And they really should do something about the duplication. I mean, seriously, they need to coordinate in neighboring districts and all that stuff. Fishy has something to say.
About that specifically, I have some really interesting news that I got. I went to a press conference for our local party with our new chairman. The state chairman was there. The county judge was there, who's sort of coordinating some of the campaign joint efforts. And the guy that's running for my House district was there, and he knows me, and we talked. We go back quite a few years. And he was telling me about the change this year in the way things have been done. It was interesting. They've been doing a state party led series of block walks and door knockings around the state. The state party has been putting the list together and doing that, and they walk for a for the governor's candidate, Greg Abbott, the running for governor, and whoever's in the local district. So they're hitting multiple candidates with one walk, attempting to hit more people fewer times, I suppose, but for multiple candidates. Another thing he told me that was really neat that was being done, they were having phone banking for the same way. They were running it for the governor's candidate, the governor's race, and for a local candidate. And when they would do phone banking, they've cross-cooperated between counties even around here, so that where I live is right next door to the county south of us, and that county's office has been working with our county's office, and they put up a satellite in my neighborhood right around the corner from my house. The great thing about this is when one office would have not enough phones for the people that were there, somebody would go to another office, grab the phones, and bring them where they needed to go. And when there was electricity that needed to be turned on in the office, and it needed to happen immediately, one of the candidates wrote a check for it himself. This is cross-communication and cooperation like I've never seen, and it's really exciting, and they're doing some of that in a way that is going to alleviate some of those problems, hitting those people multiple times with different campaigns and nobody knows what the others are doing. I'm really excited to see that on the ground here.
Well, and that seems like more high-value contacts, because if you actually are able to get me to come to the door and you talk to me about the governor, the lieutenant governor, my state senator, my state reps, some of the federal races, and about all of these things, then you're more likely to, A, remind me that I need to go vote, remind me to vote for everybody, and get me excited about it, and then, wow, I'll be so impressed with that level of communication, I'm kind of likely to mention it to the folks that I work with.
Mm-hmm. Well, and also it excites the volunteers, because having coordinated volunteers, I can tell you their biggest frustration is the lack of organization. And they get frustrated because they see other people doing the same work that they're doing, or they see a lot of gaps in the process, and they just think, why am I wasting my time? So if you can coordinate with multiple candidates, cross counties, etc., that is the best thing you can do for getting good volunteers who don't get burned out super fast.
We always use that phrase that it's amazing what you can get done when you don't care who gets the credit. This is sort of that thing. If a candidate writes a check for the power, is anyone going to know about that until they look at his campaign finance reports? No. But the guy got it done, and those people were out there working not just for him but for other candidates. Amazing. I'm still floored at the news at how well this coordination has been working, and I think it's truly a function of leadership.
That's amazing. I wish that we had that kind of stuff happening here in New Jersey. I mean, we're a tinier state. We should be able to figure out how to coordinate. We need to coordinate better. But you know, I would love to hear. What's up, Andy?
There's only 2 of you Republicans. Why can't you coordinate?
We just don't like each other. It's really hard. I mean, Chris Christie's in Trenton. I'm here. It's just like,
yeah,
we never see each other. It's real tough. But really, we do need this Texas model to show up elsewhere. We need to make sure that that's something that gets out there. I would love to hear more from the guys who actually, you know, are implementing this, because that's huge, and that could do a lot. I'm not joking about the situation here in New Jersey. If we could figure out how to coordinate more effectively, man, we could actually get some stuff done. Run a volunteer surge through some counties, get some doors knocked on, and you know, promote a bunch of different elections. That could be a really big deal. But you know, sadly, not so much here, but hopefully soon.
I've got to say, too, that when I went to this event on, was it just yesterday morning? Oh, Lord, it was just yesterday morning. When I went to this event, I was struck by the number of young people there. I'm 45, and I was probably the second oldest person in the room until the county judge showed up. And everyone was younger. There were people at 10 a.m. who were in their 20s, who were there to tweet and use social media and take pictures, which we did in great force and spent a good amount of space doing. But they also were there to talk to candidates, to meet them, to talk about things that they would be doing, helping them with. That was phenomenal to see that many young people on a work day, on a Monday, in the middle of the morning, out there ready and willing, and all the pictures that you see from these cooperative events have been a lot of young people. This is very, very encouraging too, because they feel as though their involvement is making a difference. They can see it, they can touch it, they can feel it, they understand how the parts work. They've been really working not just hand in hand with state party and the county parties, but other organizations, Republican auxiliary organizations, and they've all started working together in a way I've never seen.
I can't tell you just from personal experience these past couple of weeks. I've met with at least two different congressional candidates, neither of which are my own, but two congressional candidates. I've talked with a bunch of different staffers. I've been on. I've talked to mayoral candidates, like straight up. I've been out there walking with them, doing block walks with a mayoral candidate near me, and took pictures at another mayoral candidate, and that got into a local newspaper. So, like, just going out there and involving yourself, getting in touch with these campaigns. A, it's not tough. B, it's fun. And C, you get to communicate with people who are going to, have a chance at, affecting your life in a pretty major way. So, especially with local elections, and the thing about local elections is that the local people do know the people who are working with the county, and there's stuff that goes back and forth between those groups. So, if you're working with a mayoral candidate, then you might go and hop over to a congressional race, and then from there you could go on to the Senate. There's a lot of, while there isn't a whole lot of coordination between the counties and in general, there is definitely communication between those groups. So go out there and volunteer. It's really good. It's not a hassle, and it's actually pretty fun.
If we're beyond organization, can I mention something that I like people to say when they're calling? Because what I mean is this: the biggest thing that people have to deal with right now when you're trying to churn out the base is the incredible division in the base. And so let's say you have an establishment candidate and you get a Tea Partier on the line, or a Libertarians type on the line, or something like that. Or you have a Tea Party candidate, Ted Cruz, and you get an establishment you're a social moderate on the line. I love it. What I always tell people is this: let them go off quick and then just say, awesome. Awesome. I love your perspective. It shocks them. And then I just say, and because they think that you're going to be negative to them, and I say, we need more of your point of view, not less. We need more of you in the party, not less. Love having it. You make us stronger. Thank you. And then at that point, then I often have some who want to get into a discussion, and I don't mind, I'll do it, and and soften them up from there and tell them how great it is that they hold their views. Because here's the thing: you only have a few seconds. You don't have enough time to get engaged in a 60-minute talk on how to bring them toward being a team player. But instead, show them how the team is excited about them. And if there's somebody who's already on board, they're a Tea Party or your candidate's Ted Cruz, awesome. You just tell them we applaud you, thank you for everything you're doing. But if they're different, tell them how awesome that is, because they make us better and stronger.
On that note, I actually, and I didn't get in trouble for this either, but last year I found myself phone banking for Chris Christie somehow. And I got a couple of those people who were not really happy, but I went through and I said, hey, not my favorite either, but I'm here because we need this win. I'm here because we need to make sure that the Democrats don't make it even worse. So there are ways that you can communicate these things, and as long as you can get these people to be on your side, as long as you can convince them that we're on the same team, and that their opinion is valuable, that's huge. I think. I mean, I can't really vouch for any of these methods because, after all, you don't really get to see who votes. and if so, who they voted for. So it's hard to say what's effective or not. But I definitely feel like the people that I connected with on that level were more motivated than they were when I initially called them, when I made that initial communication. They were definitely more interested in voting, or it sounded like they were, than they were when they just answered the phone.
I just want to clarify something about, Andy is frequently reminding us of how best to communicate with people and bring them to our side. And you're illustrating the things that you've said to people who were a bit challenging when you were trying to persuade them to vote for Christie. Um, I just want to clarify for everybody the reason that talking about what we should say doesn't bother me at all is because it's all honest and it's genuinely true. We're not lying to people. We're just saying, of all the many things I could say to you that are in fact true, I'm going to choose the 3 or 4 that will make the most difference in saving the country and getting you to vote. So it's not at all about the kind of lying used car salesman tactic of say whatever you think they want to hear. This is actually reminding us of how to approach them and how to see that even if they are disagreeing with us on a few things, they genuinely do make the Republican Party stronger, because the diversity of views that we have in the Republican Party and amongst all of our candidates makes us a better, more robust, more creative political force in this country. We can, if we have a big diversity of generally conservative libertarian views, then we can handle philosophically whatever comes up, because we've got the depth and breadth of thinking in all of our members. We're so different from the Democrats in that. Democrats really tend to be just do what we say, follow along, and do what we tell you to do. And if you need me to give you some candy in order to get you to vote, I'll give you some candy. If you need me to tell you that we won't have government-funded abortions in Obamacare in order to get you to vote for it, Bart Stupak, we will tell you that. They knew it was a lie at the time. They lied anyway in order to get him to vote. That's what Democrats do, and it's not what we're saying that we want ourselves and our people to do. We're saying, remind yourselves of the fundamental truth that you don't want everybody to agree with you, but you do want everybody to vote with you.
Oh, absolutely. I love reminding them we are the party of individuals. We are not the party of cattle.
I like that.
I couldn't handle a party that agrees with me and everything. Thank
Hell,
God.
I don't agree with me all the time. I mean, I change my mind.
And Corey changes mine.
Yeah, as she should.
But I love reminding, like I said, when they get negative like that, I'm not giving them a line when I say awesome. I mean it. I say great.
Mm-hmm.
We're the party of individuals. You want to be cattle and just believe everything your candidate believes? Go to the other party. That's for you. You want to be an individual who agrees with your candidate a lot of the time, but sometimes you don't? That's our party. And here's what's great. In our party, individuals freely choose to support other individuals. You'll have Chris Christie out there campaigning for Tea Party governors across the country, and he does. You'll have Rand Paul. You'll have Rand Paul campaigning for various
Mitch McConnell.
Yeah,
exactly.
You will have. We crisscross, and you have these individuals not being told to as cattle, not being herded, but freely supporting each other because we're a team that loves being amongst individuals who make us stronger.
Even if we complain about it a lot. We do complain about it a lot. We are not we are not the most traditional family when it comes to these things. We argue quite a bit. We are very dysfunctional, but we do want to get things done. We do recognize in the end that this is something that we have to win as a team. And it's really good that you brought up that whole Chris Christie going out there and campaigning for Tea Partiers and Rand Paul campaigning for establishment or whatever you want to call them, because that kind of teamwork, which is happening on the higher levels, I mean, we need to make people understand on the grassroots level that they can be both a Tea Partier and campaign for somebody who's not a Tea Partier. I mean, that can happen. That's not going. You're not going to get any cooties. It's not going to, turn you into a rhino by helping out a campaign. That's not going to happen. Honestly, I probably have more libertarian, far more libertarian outlook than Jeff Bell does, but I'm not whining about it. I'm not saying that, hey, oh, well, we really should try and push to legalize marijuana, or, I think that we could hold off on trying to restore DOMA or some stuff like that. I'm not. I'm trying to get Jeff Bell elected because I know for sure that I don't want to have to deal with Cory Booker, uh, being my senator for any longer than he currently has been. I don't want to have him, being a rubber stamp for Obama. Those are things that I know will happen if the Democrat wins, and I have no problem whatsoever feeling as though I hold libertarian viewpoints and also campaigning for somebody like Jeff Bell.
I think a real key here for a lot of people, though, they hear the 80-20 rule from Reagan, and it's so funny because so many conservatives say they love Reagan totally disobey the 80-20 rule.
Isn't that weird? But yes, you're right.
It is so weird. But I think what they need to see is somebody step up ahead of them. And that's and thank God for Rand and these other guys who are doing that, because what they need to see, a Tea Partier is going to be much faster to get in there behind an establishment candidate if they see establishment people shouting Ted Cruz, and saying, look, man, we are on the same team. We like being on a team with people who disagree with us and make us better and sharpen us and listen to us. But it's got to go both ways, and I think people who, how do I put this, are newer to the system, newer to the program, really need those who have been around longer to show that first.
Well, and at the federal level, that doesn't, and in the professional politician level, it doesn't happen all that often. We do see the establishment or the professional politicians and the professional political class feeling very threatened by the Tea Party movement, and there tends to be less of the support for our guys than there is of us supporting their guys, and that hurts, and it does create some resentments. I mean, I don't think we should deny that it's out there. It's legit, but we do have to be grown up enough and just look past it and say, oh, well, that's sad. They are dinosaurs. They will die off eventually, and we will have our people in place to replace them when they do die off.
Here's
the old political class.
Here's one of the things that I think is the most important reason to get involved in a campaign. It doesn't matter what level or in what aspect you get involved. It sort of humanizes some of the candidates, and we have this tendency to call them all one thing. They're all this, cynical and self-important and whatever. We tend to, as a movement, label these guys. Now, I've called them the political class for a long time because that type of person, it doesn't matter what their R or D is after their name, they're in it for that sort of thing. But when you work for someone you believe in and you spend time in that office, you begin to appreciate how difficult it is for them to please all the people that they have to please. That's very key. And then also, the other thing is, when you spend time working for a particular candidate, that candidate is going to know about it. That's going to come up in their history of you. When you call their office, they're going to have somebody that has a note there that says, oh yeah, this was one of your volunteers back 2 years ago. They're going to know that. You're going to be a voice they'll listen to, far more likely than if you're just calling them on the phone and harassing them. Get that extra time in and get your foot in the door, and they begin to hear you more often than a person who hasn't made any contact. And they begin to respond to you I know cases locally where somebody has, riled up a
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
You just cut out. We lost your audio, Fishy.
I think we
congressman
lost.
pretty badly.
Fishy, 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 hold on. Rewind, rewind. We lost you. You cut out.
Sorry, am I back now?
Yes.
Yes, you're back.
Okay. No, just I was going to say I know of a local case where there's a local congressman and there's a person who's been agitating about particular things that this congressman has done to the point where when that person makes a criticism, the office is responding publicly, not to that criticizer, but in order to respond so as to make the criticism less important, to try to mitigate the criticism. That's responsive politics, and they do that but from a position of having worked with the candidate before, not as this person on the outside that nobody listens to. This is a person who's been in those offices and sat across the table and spent time working with and for this particular congressperson. So the more time you spend getting your foot in the door, the more likely they're going to listen to you.
Yeah, it's harder to ignore somebody that you know than it is to ignore somebody that you don't know, that you have no idea who they are. But when you're talking about somebody who gave up their time, some of their hard-earned weekend to go out and canvass or to make phone calls, that's something that it makes it very difficult for these people to ignore you going forward. So please, again, for like the umpteenth time, get out there and call. And here's the other thing: if you don't have an election in your state that you're particularly enthused about, we have a lot of them this year, and there are lots of them that could use your help. And these guys have phone from home. They have all sorts of different ways that you can help. And seriously, it is the easiest thing these days to help out a campaign. If you have uh, if you have 5 seconds and a cell phone, you can make 10 calls and help out a campaign. It's
Okay,
really
that
it's
might have
that
been an
easy.
exaggeration. Five
Yeah,
seconds,
sure.
10
Not
calls.
five, not 5 seconds, but take 10
We get the
minutes,
point.
a couple of phone calls. It's easy to do.
And there are plenty of races that, surprisingly, this year need help. I mean, certainly no one expected that Kansas was going to be in the list of states that we might lose. When I initially looked at the Senate races several months ago and divided them into categories of, at risk or likely pickup or guaranteed pickup or whatever, I didn't actually have any races that looked like they were going to flip from being Republican to Democrat, and that's changed now. So, we have 6 weeks to either decide that we want to work towards reelecting Pat Roberts. That would not be my choice. I would have much rather in the primary had somebody defeat Pat Roberts and to have some new young blood going in to be a new senator for Kansas. But Pat Roberts is the guy, and he really needs to win instead of this other guy. So, in states like Texas where we don't have a Senate race that's competitive for us that we have to worry about, some Texans can spend some time working the Pat Roberts campaign.
Yes, I don't know any Texans who made phone calls for races outside of Texas last year. Okay, actually, I do. I know a bunch of them who made phone calls for Steve Lonigan, spearheaded by Fishy. That was a huge thing, and you know, an amazing assist from Texas to New Jersey to get those calls made, and it didn't win us the election, but that was certainly a morale boost for me and for a lot of the volunteers that I talked to. So that was pretty huge.
And that's the kind of thing that's pretty easy to do. It's perfectly legal for people to donate to races outside of their own state. It's not legal for non-Americans to donate to our political races, but it is legal, and Texas is still part of America. So Texans are not actually foreigners donating their efforts to races outside of Texas. For
That's good to
now.
know.
For now.
Good. Good to know. I'm relieved that you guys can help out outside of Texas, especially this year, since the biggest race there is Lieutenant Governor. Is that right? So, you know, make phone calls for that, but then there's also stuff outside of the state to talk about, and you know, North Carolina is a race that really needs some help. The Kansas that Leslie mentioned, Iowa, Monica Webby in Oregon. There are so many races that we could influence. Um, but let's see, when was that? Yeah, back to the lower level races. When you are a volunteer, that the kind of impact that you have is so huge because when you're talking about a mayor, a council person, any of those kind of races, when it's hundreds of votes that decide an election, I mean that's something that a single person can influence, and something that I certainly hope that I'm going to have some influence on in the races that I'm helping. But I mean those are races that if you aren't out there and the Democrat wins it by 100, 200 votes, I don't know. I mean, that would make me feel really, really bad.
Well, I think it's a lot of fun to help with those lower level races too. We've worked on a few different campaigns. We've worked on House District, we've worked on City Council, and you really learn a lot about the process as far as what goes into a campaign, all of the work that a candidate has to do. Like you were saying earlier, you also learn that it's a really difficult position because they're not just representing people like us who agree with them, they're representing people who have differing views. And that's a really fine line to walk because they can't just walk into their seat or into their position and just rule according to the way that they want to and legislate according to their principles all of the time. They do as much as they can, but you have to remember they're also having to represent people who don't share all of the same views. So that has been really interesting for us just to watch some candidates having to walk that fine line. But the other thing that's really fun is that after a while, you open up your ballot and you know everybody who's on it, and you're like, hey, I get to vote for George today. I get to vote for Kathy today. So that's my favorite part.
That is really, really awesome, and I won't be getting that privilege because my town is about as solid Republican as it gets in New Jersey. So I'm out there helping other towns and trying to get that done. But that is really cool to know, to be watching the returns, probably from somebody's party or maybe even the county Republican Party will have a watch, an election watch or whatever, to see those returns come in and see some of your friends win. I would imagine that has got to be a really fun, good feeling.
Yeah, it is. A lot of times they'll have a big party at one of the hotels, and then candidates will rent out different rooms. And so you can go from room to room and see how things are going. And a couple of my friends accidentally crashed Ken Buck's party a couple of years ago. That was kind of funny. But yeah, it's great. You get to see all the friends that you made on the campaign, all the other volunteers, and then you get to celebrate with the people who won and, console those who don't, because unfortunately we don't always win. But you learn from it, and you get to move forward together stronger as a team.
Uh-oh, there was like everybody was muted there. Yes, and building those connections means that going forward in future elections, you have people to call on. You have people that you know, not just if you ever run, but if you know people who are running, you are building up a Rolodex of people that you can call on to help out with those races. And I mean that's a pretty big deal to know who is a volunteer in your area going forward that to get stuff done. I mean that's pretty huge.
One
Well,
of the things that was really driven home to me a few years ago is that those low-level races, that's your farm team. Those are the guys who are going to be running for Congress in a few years or running for the Senate and running for high state office. And getting to know them while they're running and helping them run those lower-level races, you're getting experience with them, but you're also getting relationships with them. And so that when they're running for those higher races, you've got influence in the door, and you can affect those lower races with such small amount of effort, as you were saying, JD. The leverage there is huge, but then when they get to a larger race universe that they're running in, when they get to a larger electorate they have to move, you already are familiar with them, and you can speak from that experience too. We've got to develop our farm team. We've got to develop guys that have political experience as well as governance experience in order to field good candidates. We can't expect people always to come out of the blue outside the political arena and then do very well and step into the political jungle there and not know their way around. It's just far better to work on these low-level campaigns with people who are just beginning and get experience with them, but help them as well and help them prepare for the next thing.
That's such a double-edged sword, the whole farm team training and thing. And I know that's what the Democrats do, and that's certainly what Battleground Texas is doing right now. And as you're saying that, Felicia, I'm going, yes, exactly right. We have got to take our local level candidates and teach them, help them learn, and really sponsor them as they get better at campaigning and better at winning elections and get better at the game of politics and make the right connections to be good state congressmen and state senators, and then U.S. congressmen and U.S. senators, and really move up, because it is unusual for somebody to step out of the private sector into a high-level elected office because they don't have the experience with running a campaign or being in politics, and there's an awful lot that you can't just learn on the job when you change industries like that. But then as I'm sitting there thinking, this is great, this is wonderful, we really need to do that. Weren't we just 10 minutes ago talking about the political class and how that can be a blight and a danger, and how people who are professional politicians, and politics is what they do for a living, like Joe Biden, and all they ever are is an elected politician, this is where I change my own mind and disagree with myself.
The good news about that, though, Leslie, is that if you are the one who's involved, if you're the one who's going up through the ranks with them, then generally wouldn't it be easier for you to sniff them out? Maybe then it becomes the case that you need to challenge that person. Maybe it becomes the case that, going through this process, you realize that we need to have a better candidate, and you build influence around, with the other volunteers by going out there and volunteering. And when you get into those situations, then you get to exert some of your influence and say, hey, I'm not liking what this person is doing, and I might need to go and volunteer for somebody else, or I might need to run myself. So this system is good when it comes to policing itself, because you're the one with the controls.
And wouldn't you rather have them make their mistakes at the low level?
Oh, heck yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so jump on those races, and this is getting down to growing your own politician. That's what you're doing. That's what you're trying to. And that's what it should be.
Yeah.
No, and that's what it should be. That's why we have this representative government. You should be able to, have a say in who this person is, and one of those ways that you get to fix and change and sort of personalize your politician is by going out there and volunteering for them and helping them get elected or not. I mean, that's just going to be the mix that you have to deal with. But
and I guess that's true. I mean, if somebody's going to be a lifelong politician and just be determined to be part of the political class, if that's their life goal, they're going to succeed, because they will make the friends and make the connections to be that professional politician or consultant or whatever. And it would be better if people like me and people like us are there to supervise and shape, because otherwise they are supervised and shaped by all the people who want to make money off of this guy and by the influence, and it stays the corrupt cronyist thing that it currently is, and only by injecting ourselves into that process can we make it better. Okay.
You get to be the little angel on the shoulder. The other guy gets to be the little devil on the shoulder. So if you're the
Yeah, you
little angel
realize
on the
I'm a
shoulder,
ginger. That's just so not going to happen. Redheads have no soul, man. Redheads have no soul.
but that's the thing, is that you get to have better say in who it is that is going to win these races, and you get to influence them directly and get to talk to them about how they're doing their campaigning. If you hear somebody that's like miserable at campaigning, and you can do something about it, you can. That's a huge thing. How many people who are running for the first time are going to realize what they're saying? We talk about messaging. It's something that we have kind of specialized in. That's something that we want to have that discussion. We are on the lookout for good messaging and bad messaging. Not everybody's doing that. People want to specialize in their own ways, and talking about particular issues. If you're focused on the politics of your town, if you're focused on trying to get that bridge fixed, or trying to not waste as much money on the 17 dog runs in your district, maybe you're not focused on how to talk to people. So getting feedback from volunteers, working on phone banking scripts, all of those things are things that volunteers can do. All of those things are things that their feedback is very important for, and make our guys better at doing their jobs and affect these races. I mean, we can't state that enough, that you can really affect these races and win elections for candidates by participating in the volunteering process. I
And
mean,
yes, a little side comment, because JD obviously is having an obsessed with Chris Christie evening. He mentioned bridge. When he said bridge, I immediately thought Chris Christie. Do any of us not associate Chris Christie to the word bridge now?
me, I don't associate him with bridges. I was thinking civic projects. I was thinking stuff that need to. Oh, bridges.
In roads and infrastructure, we always have to build roads and infrastructure.
I live in New
But you
Jersey.
said it, I was like, oh, there we go, Chris Christie.
There are about 1 billion bridges in my area, so there's a reason why I immediately thought bridges. I'm sorry.
Come on. It's water under the bridge. Let's move on.
Wow.
Okay, wait a minute. Where's that gong sound effect? There we go.
That's actually
Wow.
relevant. Corey brings it up.
Yes.
Christie's looking pretty good after that whole thing, all
Yes.
that harassment.
He only created the culture of harassment. He didn't actually specifically order the harassment done. Whatever. The left is still trying to pull on those straws. It's not. He's fine. He's not going to win the presidential election because of this. He's not going to. It is what it is. He's the same candidate that he's always been, and hopefully he will work on getting Jeff Bell elected. That's the election that I hope that Chris Christie is focused on right now.
God, would that not be an awesome Senate win? Would that not be awesome?
And it is something that is possible.
It is possible.
It is, and he's close in the polls. Who would have thought that Jeff Bell would be close in the polls with Cory Booker?
Yeah.
I'm very, very happy and very ready to watch the Democrats spend a lot of money on that race. And listening to the people that were at the fundraiser that I went to, people were excited about that race. People were excited about going out there and getting people to the ballot box and voting for Jeff Bell. And we have the most diverse. I don't know if I mentioned this last week, but we have the most diverse cast of people running for Congress in the state of New Jersey as Republicans that we've had in a long time, if ever. We've got 2 African American women. We've got, I think, 2 African American men. We've got another woman, and we've got a young guy running for Congress. All of these things, and we only have like 3 old white guys on the ballot here in New Jersey running for Congress, and that's pretty cool. And I think that's something that we should highlight going forward. But people
I
don't
think
want to
you
hear it.
need to highlight that because no one's taken opportunity to do that. It's time to get a collage made.
I want to give Matt Rooney credit from the Save Jersey blog, who has talked about it, but I really want to get those guys together, and I want to see them, see a broader discussion about the diversity of the GOP in New Jersey. I think that would be really cool. So we'll see if that manages to come together. I did talk with one of the candidates, Anthony Wilkinson, this at the fundraiser. So that's cool.
One thing, too, though, that I think needs to be said, there are a lot of candidates who just don't understand all the dynamics around social media, messaging, optics, stuff like that. Sometimes they need a little help. And, it's good for you to point that out. Maybe they can run with that. And time's short. I'll tell you that in Texas, the early ballot applications are going out now. People will be able to vote in just a week or 2.
There are a
That's when
couple of
voting
states where they're voting already. This whole
Yes.
early voting thing is insane.
We've got ballots going out now here in New Jersey. So yeah, we want to bank those. That's another good reason to phone bank, is that the more votes that we can get in early, the less we have to worry about them later. So that's a good way to communicate to people who answer the phone, and people who answer the phone are typically people who will respond well to mail-in ballots. I'm not going to make any distinctions about why that may be, why they're answering the phone, and why they might need mail-in ballots or why they would want to have mail-in ballots. But suffice it to say hi to Grandma when you are calling these people on the phone.
Yeah, we were all thinking it. You said it.
JD, getting back to Chris Christie a little, is there some way? One of the biggest problems of division on the right is that we don't learn from each other. We don't learn from the strengths. Chris Christie's strength is his spectacular reach outside the choir. And you can say, well, it's through compromise. No. There's plenty of compromising candidates who have no reach outside the choir. This guy is amazing. We are probably going to lose North Carolina, okay? Which is unbelievable, by the way. And you know why? Tom Tillis is behind on when it comes to single women. Get ready now. Get ready. Drop your jaws. He's behind by over 40 points among single women voters. Yeah, that's right, Fishy.
40 points?
Over 40 points with single women voters. We lose by about 33 to 35 points with single women voters. And I'll tell you what, besides, trying to unite people on the phone and all this kind of stuff, I wish I could ask every woman voter, please talk to your friends. Please. I look at Chris Christie, can somebody like Tom Tillis, can these guys learn from him? Rather than shooting each other, can we learn from each other? Because Chris Christie, he is not losing single women voters by these amounts. And he's in an incredibly liberal state.
Well, what is it that Christie and Tillis are doing differently?
I don't know Tillis's views. I'm sure he's strongly pro-life. Christie is moderately pro-life. I don't know. I don't know if Tillis. If Tillis says, obviously, if he's done the toxic one, if he has said that he is against abortion even in cases of rape, well, that would be the end. At that point, you can't reach. I'm sorry if somebody. I'm just being honest, guys. If somebody takes that stand, I cannot tell them
This is actually it's actually interesting that you brought that up, because this is actually something that I want to talk about. I want to talk about the North Carolina race and what's going on there, and this
But that,
exact
that
issue.
wouldn't be a loss. I mean, that's currently held by Kay Hagan, so it's a hold. It's a Democrat hold.
Right, but we should have been able to pick it up, and the
Right.
state is very conservative. But losing women by that ridiculous margin, I mean, it is insane, and it's a systemic problem. It's not just Tillis that has this problem, and you only see a few conservatives who are able to really get into this demographic with any success. The female demographic is just because of a lot of reasons. I read this article in the Federalist on the Federalist.com. I'm going to put it in the chat right now. That was on the subject of the implosion of Tom Tillis when it comes to the female vote, and in it there's some interesting stuff talking about why birth control trumps everything. Because what this is the thing, Andy, why it is that he seems to be losing. It seems like it has to do with birth control, the war on women, and Obamacare. How is somebody who's against just the free part of birth control suddenly an extremist? Why are women so prone to abandon common sense? And this is an article clearly written for us, because going into that's another thing that comes out in this article. But basically saying that birth control is a proxy issue for abortion, and if you are against free birth control, that means that somehow you must be against abortion. It goes through this whole range of issues. It's a dog whistle that says, okay, if you are, since they've been so inextricably linked by the Democrats, unless Tom Tillis were to come out tomorrow and say that he's pro-abortion, which would be probably as bad as him coming out tomorrow and saying that he's against abortion, you're not going to heal this situation just based on this issue. It's insane the way that it's been linked. But we also don't talk to women when it comes to politics anywhere the way that we should. Andy, you had something to say?
Well, I'm just saying you're right. We're not going to change it in this election cycle. It's too late. I would do anything to be able to run our War on Women ad across North Carolina. I would do anything, because I'm sorry, but I've just had so many people say it's the most effective thing they've seen for that, and it just breaks my heart that we don't have the money to do it. I look at Tillis. He needs help so badly. I've already started thinking, not thinking about this. It's not that I'm not thinking about this election cycle. I am. But I'm also already starting to think about 2015. We have got to, once and for all, in 2015, end the war on women. We have got to break through in each state and end this. We have got to change our messaging. We can. We've got to. We have to.
Well, we're accepting their terms, and you've done it. When we immediately started talking about, when we first started talking about Tom Tillis and his problems with the women vote, and I asked the leading question of what do we think it is, the immediate assumption is it has to be abortion. So we as a party have bought into the left's definition that the woman vote is about birth control and abortion, and we're fighting on their ground, and we're accepting the term war on women. We're accepting that the woman vote is all about birth control and abortion. I think women have a little bit more than that going on their brains. I mean, they used to be security moms. They used to be soccer moms. Now they're just, uterus moms? I mean, that's all we are now. We have so completely...
But you're conflating the two, because this is specifically talking about unmarried single women. And moms are a little bit of a different category. most are presumed in politics to be married, although there are single moms definitely out there that are a political force. The places that conservatives are falling behind are unmarried women.
Okay, so that 40 points behind in women is unmarried women, not just women.
Single women. Single women, he is over 40 points behind.
And all that single women care about is birth control and abortion? Really?
No, what they care about is being told what they can do with their bodies. They don't want the government telling a woman what she can do with her body. And I got to be honest, I celebrate that. I agree with them. I simply don't want one person's choice to take away another person's choice. And our messaging has been so horrendous on this. If we would just tell them, look, I agree. You don't want the government telling a woman what to do with her body. That's wonderful. I agree. I don't either. I want to control my own life, not yours. But I just don't want one choice to erase somebody else's choice. And that's where we get into talking about, gee, is this a human life or not? But I do know this. You don't sound like a baby killer, and I know that I don't sound like somebody who hates women. All right? Let's put down the weapons and just talk. If we can just break down these barriers and say, I'm not at war with women. You certainly don't seem like you're at war with babies. This is crazy. But you have to start out by connecting with their heart. Their heart isn't that I'm just a uterus. Their heart is, you are telling me what I can do with my body. And by the way, this is a range of things that can be done with my body that cannot be done with the other half of the human race.
I think, too... Sorry, go ahead.
No, that was it.
No, I think, too, that one of the issues that we have in conservative circles talking about these things is that we do stop at those simplistic labels, and we aren't learning ourselves how to talk through this issue. We're looking at two different things here. We're looking at a campaign that's got, a couple of months to influence people, and they're probably not going to be able to do it as well in that couple of months. So the kind of messaging you're talking about is definitely incumbent upon us to be spreading in the rest of the cycle, the whole cycle, the 24 months between every election day that we have in November. What we're looking at is people who know how they feel, but they don't know how to communicate that in a way that you just did, that's empathetic, that's engaging rather than combative with people. And so what I'm thinking, too, is you have your War on Women ad, which is phenomenal, and we'll link that, and it'll be in the description of the video. I would love people to see that, but also for people to be able to take that apart and look behind that. How do you get to that place as a conservative evangelist for conservative values or something like that? And I think probably a greater discussion would be to be able to put that maybe on video somehow, or maybe we cut it out of here someday through Refinery, but walk through that process of telling people this is how you would like to engage. You want to keep them from turning you off immediately. And so I know this is something we talk about often, but I think having the roadmap specifically laid out very linearly would help people a lot.
Yeah, we actually have that, Fishy. When we did our choice words that win training this spring, that was one topic that we've ripped apart and put back together pretty thoroughly. So I'll make sure to get you guys a PDF of that, because it does exactly what you just asked us to do. It shows what the Democrats say. It shows our ineffective approach, and then it gives examples of what you can say instead that will tear down that wall and build that bridge to help persuade them to see your point of view.
Quickly.
Essentially, what we need to do is just get people to bring you guys all over the country, to train people to do this. And that is something we definitely want to see happen.
Oh, yes, we're independently wealthy. We'll just zip on around. I would love to.
I'm talking about people bringing you there, paying your way.
Hey, I'm all for it. I got to be honest, when we do this, every time we do, like when we did the choice words that win, and I started walking them through not just this, but a couple other things, the rich and the poor, redistribution of wealth, and a couple other topics, you should have seen them. They were just like, we never knew in just a few seconds we can break through to people we thought were just absolutely unreachable. And they just can't believe it. They get so excited. And that's why I wish we could do it more.
Absolutely, it would be great if we could actually get you guys out there. One of the things that frustrates me is that not on a campaign level, but on just an individual level, whenever you hear people talking, whenever you hear conservatives talking about women, particularly about single women, and how they are, helplessly liberal, and it's the same thing you hear when you hear people talk about millennials and stuff like that. Um, it frustrates me because the arguments, the sort of way that we uh, generally approach women when we want to talk about issues are, I think, our two major approaches are ones that would never work if you were dating. If you were trying to approach this woman from a perspective of trying to get them to go out on a date with you, we go with we're right all the time. So you should really, 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 be with us. That's a really good idea. I mean, we're smart. We've got the great answers on everything. So, we're awesome. So why aren't you with us already? That's the.
We know what you need. We
Yeah.
know what you need.
And then there's the guy who's going to throw out, the super geeky, wants to talk about only the tax rates on certain items, going through ridiculous minutia, and try and expect that that's going to be a good way to approach these single women. And then you have the left and what the left are doing. What are the left doing? While we're
They're
trying,
calling me, they're buying me flowers, they're taking me to a nice restaurant, they're listening to me, they're making me feel valued and important, and they're considering my ideas to be important, and they're pleased when I like them, and all of the things that a really good date does. And
Well, they're doing all that
single
with
women,
your wallet, but
single women outnumber married women at this point.
what Fishy
That's
said.
brand new, but yeah, single women outnumber married women. I'm a single woman, and I'm far more than just a uterus. That's why it kind of pisses me off that every time the conversation turns to what do we talk about to get the single women to vote Republican? Let's talk about birth control and abortion. I'm like, oh, gag me, please. We're accepting their premise and not redefining the battle space, creating our own. But that's probably a little bit more advanced of a skill than the GOP is currently up to. I don't really know. Because hell, we don't even fight back right.
I'm not even talking about the GOP. I'm talking about
Us.
I'm talking
as
about
individuals, yeah.
as individuals going through and trying to approach their single women friends and talk about these issues. Can you believe the ridiculous bullshit stuff that's going on? Sorry
it's
about
okay.
that. That's going
you can
on.
bleep that out, and we'll fix that in post.
Yes, we'll fix it in post.
Actually, you'll fix that in post.
Right. That's going on in regards to a billion different issues when we're ignoring just listening to what their concerns are politically.
We're making assumptions that their concerns are abortion and birth control. Maybe they are.
Well, regardless, it's not the correct approach. And what Fishy was saying was really important there. Getting back to the dating analogy, is that the Democrats are doing this. They're listening and they're buying all these great fun things for these women using their
credit card. I don't care. He pulls out the credit card and hands it to the waiter, and we're busy talking wine, and he's looking deeply into my eyes. I don't care who's paying for it.
Right.
That's the way it's working.
And that's not right. That's awful. That's wrong.
He's pulling out your credit card.
Well, yes. Yeah. I didn't notice. I was busy looking into his eyes, and then I didn't really realize.
Just
sign this. Oh, Okay.
Yeah, please. It's for the best. It's a really good, it's a really good cause.
By the way, just to let you know, it has happened to me in the past that I was taken out to a fancy restaurant for dinner, and his credit card was declined, and he had to use my credit card, so I bought myself a fancy dinner. I did not dump that guy immediately, but I did dump him. Just so you know, everybody feel sorry for me.
But but getting back to this issue, I mean, I can't imagine why we would think it would work to just say, oh, we're right, so you should totally be with us. And that's essentially what our argument is. 90% of the times that I've seen it put out there, talking to single women.
In what universe does a woman find someone else always
Uh-oh, you're sounding.
right?
Just rewind. In what universe, what?
In what universe does a woman find a man who's telling her he's right all the time the least bit attractive? How is that sexy? I'm just saying.
I think that was the Spock alternate universe episode or something.
It's just it's ridiculous to me. And what Andy said, the procedure that Andy is talking about is not difficult to implement. It's not. It really shouldn't be difficult to talk about these issues. And when you're talking to single women, you're talking about people who are extremely individualistic. You're talking about people who, actually do have some concerns aside from their uterus. But
Mm-hmm.
you aren't going to get to any kind of political leverage. You're not going to get into that conversation if you go into it saying, "Oh, hey, we are
You're so
completely correct
stupid.
about these things." So yeah, ask them what they're paying in taxes. Ask them about their life. Ask them what is it. They have to work. They have a job in order to get the stuff that they want to get. How exactly are they impacted by, what are their problems? Go with that. What is your, what problems are you facing? That's something that everybody has, and something that you can quickly put into a context where we have solutions for that. We have better answers. Andy, you were going to say something there?
No, you were pretty well covering it.
Oh, okay.
I like, well, I like, asking, what was that? I like asking, you know, uh, why do you vote the way you do? What's moving you in this election, stuff like this, and kind of let them lead it from there. A lot of times they're going to say, abortion, this, well, because what they're going to, and the reason is not just that they fixate on that, it's that all of the Democrat ads against the Republican are about that.
That's true.
That's all they know about they're going on what they're going on what they know. There's nothing wrong with that. All they
And
know
that's
is,
an easier issue to understand than foreign policy or economic issues. I mean, it's something that people are very familiar with, and it's easy to talk about.
yeah, and I just say, basically, well, are you pro-choice? Well, yeah, I am. And then I go into my spiel. Well, I'm pro-life, but I love the reason you're pro-choice, yada yada yada. And before you know it, because the idea is not the idea is to first, in just a few seconds, bring that wall down dramatically, and it does. It does. They just want to hear. They don't want to hear you agree with them on everything in the universe. They want to hear that you value the reason they hold this opinion, that you value them. And if they hear that, then when you say something like, I love choice. I just don't want one person's choice to take away another. Now it seems reasonable because you led with taking down that wall of anger. And then guess what? Here's the beauty of it, Leslie. What comes next? All those issues that we win on. Because you're right. They're not just a uterus. They're not just. They are people.
Right.
People.
With regular concerns like other people.
Yeah, they are people, and they don't like it either when they see somebody at work or somewhere who doesn't work hard and gets the raise or gets the promotion and they don't like people who single women do not like people who get things with who don't deserve them.
Right. Cheaters are prospering, and that's really a concern.
They hate that.
Yeah.
And and if you can take away the idea that we want to control their bodies, which, let's face it, that's pretty freaking personal. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
You get past that, and then you get to all these areas where they agree. They're very capitalistic. Do you want somebody telling you, what cell phone to buy, what this, buy, what that? Do you want somebody controlling your life? I want to control my own life, not yours. I want your choices unleashed. I just don't want one person's choice to take away another. Not just on that issue, but in schooling. If you ever have kids, do you want somebody else telling you where you got to put them in school? If you have, do you want a 15-member panel deciding your health care? I mean, come on. You don't want any of this.
Fishy put something very important, I think, in the chat here. Instead, we just park on we're right, and they feel judged. And
that's very true.
It's incredibly true, and that's a really good way to lose their interest, is to make them feel like you're judging them, and that's what the left has basically been trying to put out there as what conservatives are. Oh, we are judgmental old white guys who want to make sure that your skirt is this long and that you keep your legs shut, and we have done an excellent job of reinforcing those stereotypes, but we can break down that wall, as Andy has said, and it's even less difficult than going at it and trying to swing a baseball bat at the issue. It's not something that we are going to just be able to stand on. Oh, well, we're right, and here are the reasons why we're right. That's one of the things the reason that I brought this up is because I read this article, How Republicans Can Address the War on Women, and it was written by a woman too. What is her name? D.C. McAllister. Anyway, as she's closing up the piece, she wrote this, and this I just want to read this, get it out there. At the grassroots level, individuals need to confront feminist propaganda with truth. Conservatives need to have courage and bravely stand up to charges of sexism and fervently oppose the lies and half-truths that hide statist agendas and the wrappings of equality. Free birth control will not bring women the equality they think it promises. Quite the contrary, because when government is centralized, women will have neither equality nor freedom. If women want to be empowered, they need to be self-sufficient and free from the control of men and the state. That means less government, not more.
Fervent. There was so much anger and self-righteousness there. Ugh.
She has what Andy wants to get the point across, but she goes in the confrontational angle. Yeah. She takes the wrong angle on the right thing.
And okay, here's the deal. Democrats make single women feel appreciated, special, part of society, welcome. Republicans tend to make single women, particularly single women who have no children, feel as if they don't really matter, because it's only in families with children that matter. And it's not true, but it's the way they act. There is kind of a fetish for the family, and believe me, I am on board with that. Absolutely, married parents with children is the way society succeeds and grows. There's far too much single parenting. I absolutely agree. But the Republicans and the conservatives have a tendency to make single women feel like they're wrong for being single, and that they have not yet achieved their goal, the right goal, which is to be married and to have children. And that can be very off-putting. It's not a woman I need to feel treasured and loved and adored, but I do need to feel that the conservatives and the GOP value me as much as they do married women, which they actually genuinely do. So it's not like it would be dishonest of the GOP to pretend like they care about me, but they just need to I don't know, use their words a little bit differently so that I don't feel as dissed or dismissed or whatever it is.
Well,
Yeah.
Leslie, how would you respond to the arguments being put forth by the article that JD just read? If you were a liberal woman, I think, I
Blah,
mean,
blah, blah, shut up, go away, leave me alone, lady. You're a bitch. That's what I would say.
Oh, there's honesty.
You are an uptight, mean Republican, typical. Y'all are all so angry.
Yeah. And that's what drives me crazy, because the next paragraph that she writes is, conservatives also need to rebuild trust with women.
Physician, heal thyself.
And she also says that this can most effectively happen on a personal, non-political level in our day-to-day lives. We, as fellow students, co-workers, and family members, need to help women deal with real struggles they face in the modern feminized world. We need to show we care as individuals, so they can begin to think as individuals. Talk about your condescension right there, and
But
not
that's
always
the
look to the
problem.
state for answers. Sorry, go ahead.
That's the problem. That's how we've been approaching the war on women. Oh, that's not the right way to think about it. The real issue is, and when you tell somebody that, it's insulting.
It's
Right.
extremely insulting.
how dare you tell me what should matter to me?
Yeah. You don't care about me at all. All I am is just a potential vote, and you just want me to vote for your guy.
One, don't assume what matters to me. Don't assume that the only thing that matters to me is abortion and birth control, and don't tell me what I should be concerned about. The only proper answer is to ask.
Right.
You know, the second you take down the wall on that, like on abortion, birth control, and stuff like that, which, like I said, I'm sorry, but it can be done in seconds. It's so easy. From there, look at single women. They are total Republicans. When you get past that, they're total Republicans. Why? Because they're independent. They're produced. Most of them are in business, or they're at work and they're working their way up and they're doing this kind of thing. Or maybe yeah, they'd like to have, if they have children, maybe they'd like to have a husband because, hey, that's a lot of work for one person, right? And I want that for them too, but I don't demand it. I love their independence. I celebrate their independence. I think it's fantastic. Are you kidding? These are businesswomen. These are girls who are lugging in, the 50-hour weeks at work and stuff like this. These are girls I work with at my job, and it's just like, way to go. My gosh, look at the way you work. The last thing you want is other people taking it easy and living off your tax dollars. You're independent. You're bold. You don't want to be taken care of, but you sure as, pardon my French, you sure as hell don't want your efforts taking care of everybody who won't take care of themselves. You break down that wall, and a single woman is nothing. You break down the wall on those issues, and all you have left with a single woman is a Republican walking around.
Yeah, I think hell is on the list of words that's okay to say.
I can take hell's name.
I think you can go with that. But the last thing in this one paragraph was just that, saying that we need to stand for strong conservative principles in politics, and as we live out those principles compassionately in our own daily lives, and do that in our own daily lives, this will promote localism, which is so integral to a return to constitutional governments. So what we're saying here, what she said in these two paragraphs, is that you need to, in your day-to-day life, you need to present yourself as a conservative, and you need to tell these women that you meet that they are wrong, and that you are in fact correct, and that you need to make sure that they know that conservatism is the right way, it is the only way, and that was why I decided to bring this article. The rest of the articles is actually really good, and she talks about stuff from women saying, I don't care what the deficit is when I need to pay my bills at the end of the month. I have more important monetary policy issues than what is going on at the Fed when it comes to me getting paid by my job. That's the huge thing here, is that on one hand she's right that we need to talk about these things on a local on a local basis, that we need to talk about these things in our personal lives, but hopefully anyone who's listened to this conversation will take Andy's, what Andy's been saying and use that instead of the overbearing approach.
You know what strikes me is that we're letting our candidates do the messaging for us, and the parties do our messaging for us. And if this is the sort of effort that people get out of listening to women, and this is what she came up with, the author came up with, it's not only important for us to learn these concepts, but it's important for us to get out of our bubbles. And if we're, like me, married women with children, we need to find ourselves some single women that are not conservative and start talking to them. Because if we are in those bubbles, chances are a person like me that's conservative would be in Republican women groups, would talk to, mommy groups and live in a rather homogenous neighborhood. And that would be the extent of our conversation with people who already agree with us. We've got to find points where we can, if our candidates aren't going to do it, if our parties aren't going to do it very well, we've got to find points where we can be the rational conservative that talks to people like this to bring that cognitive dissonance, I guess, into those women's heads a little bit at a time, ahead of the party, before and ahead of candidates, and start teaching them how to do it. It's laziness in a way for us to depend on candidates and parties to do it. Yes, the mass messaging has to be done by them, but we've got to come behind and reinforce and even better what they're doing, personally and individually, where it will have more influence.
Well, Fishy, really quick, a question. Looking at it strategically, we've got, 6-7 weeks till an election, but then we got a couple of years after that, right? Would now be a good time to kind of rally the base? You talk about the kind of group that you would normally talk to. Okay, what about going to them? Because a lot of them don't understand the importance of voting. Like, I've got to do it. Some do, but some don't. So what if right now you were going to them and saying, okay, let's, this is how important this is to vote, yada, 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 but also telling them, but hey, just so you know, after the vote, this is what's coming. Not just Fishy getting out and talking to, finding single women to talk to in 2015, but equipping all of them to talk to like you do in 2015, far more effectively. Would now be a great time to connect with them while rallying them for the election.
Yeah, one thing. You're right, because one of the things that we do get into that 20-month, 4-month pattern where we're just doing that 4-month campaign thing, and then the 20 months we're missing it and not paying attention, and we're just passing around information. But giving somebody something to do on day one after the election and immediately following and say, okay, now that we've done that, what's the next task that we're going to do? If we've won, let's build on our victory. If we've lost, let's take some time and approach how we're going to win the next one immediately. And for some people, I know it's tiring to be in a 24-month campaign cycle and they can't hack it. It's hard. And no one's asking them to do it every day. But to spend a weekend or two, to take time to prepare. No, not like the Obamacare Thanksgiving conversations, but take time to prepare over the holidays and survey people. Ask them questions. Especially if you have family members that are in the middle or apolitical, it's a great time to begin to ask questions and have those conversations without inserting your viewpoint, and at the same time getting people that do agree with us to be thinking about those issues, to be getting that data, to be making those connections and getting that information down. Wouldn't it be awesome if people did go and instead of telling people what to do at Thanksgiving, that they just asked questions and then put all the answers together somewhere where everybody could see them and we could discuss what those answers were? Wouldn't that be much more productive than what the left tried to do with the forcing the Thanksgiving conversations around Obamacare?
Well, that's in our Choice Words That Win seminar. which is a little different from the Unite the Right one. One of the things we train them in is exactly what you're saying, is we show them how to be ready with some of these kind of answers that can quickly tear down walls and break through and all that, but don't give them right away. I always tell them, always leave them wanting more, and I always use the thing, dun, 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 without the last note. And what I mean is this: ask them what they think about something, you hear it, and then say, and then just say, wow, you maybe reflect it back. Wow, okay, so you don't want a woman, you want the government telling a woman what to do with her body, or you'd like to see, more jobs available in this. You'd like to see, yeah, okay, and not say anything and not offer your opinion. That makes them want it. Okay, and if you talk to 50 people and 10 people want your opinion, that'll be far more effective than 50 people hearing your opinion before you getting them to want it.
True.
Yes, it's and that goes back to exactly what we talked about here, is that we are, for some strange reason, so interested in just yelling our views and saying, and then we act confused when people don't, immediately join up ranks and want to be conservatives. It's because you're shouting your views and you're expecting them to be persuasive just because they are the word, because that's somehow reciting,
because it was truth and truthiness and science. Woohoo! Yeah.
Because somehow reciting the Constitution is going to instantly,
like
it's a magic spell to make people conservatives.
I have a news flash for people, and that is that the Constitution is not like the Word of God. It might have been divinely inspired. We can talk about that in another show entirely. But it is not like the Word of God. You do not speak it and then it goes out and accomplishes what you have purposed it to do. That is not how it works. You cannot speak liberty over things and have them be free. It doesn't work. And so
although it should, okay? I think we should all agree that it should.
It'd be nice, but I live here. I live in this world where that doesn't happen. Right.
You're saying we can't get in a circle around a liberal, lay hands on them, pray, and they'll become conservative.
Pray
That'd be
away,
nice.
Yes.
Pray away the liberal.
Yes. Yes.
Progressive.
I wonder if you could have liberal conversion therapy.
Or exorcisms.
Exorcism.
I can imagine. Oh my God.
An exorcism, yeah.
I'm not going to do the impression. I'm not going to do the impression.
It's not. We're not going to wave the cross over you. We've got our little Constitution handbook.
Yes.
We're going to wave it over you.
If you touch them, do they burn if you touch them with the Constitution?
Well, the key is you got to hire a few fake liberals to shake a lot. That gets the ball rolling. Look, I'm very good at this. I don't want to brag.
My main point, which I really didn't want to derail on. Oh, my star.
Do I really have to have shaving cream coming out of my mouth? Yes, you do. I'm paying you $20.
In the name of Jefferson. Sorry. Okay.
No, that works great, because then you could get the "Don't Tread on Me" snake to start biting people.
Oh, my stars. Okay, my greater point that I really did want to make and hammer home is that we on the right, we want to speak the truth and have the truth accomplish things because we spoke it. And it is not in the realm of possibility that you just say things and people are struck like lightning in the head and all of a sudden have revelations. I'm sure it does happen on occasion, but by and large in your daily life you cannot count on the Founding Fathers smacking someone in the back of the head with logic, reason, or truth. And so the most important thing they teach you in communications classes is it is not as important what you say, but what people are hearing. Everybody on the planet, at least everybody in political life on the planet, should know that basic fact about communication. is that it's more important to know what other people are receiving. You could have feedback in your way, which is all the business the left has drilled into people's heads. And that's the wall that Andy's talking about taking down. A lot of it is built-in feedback and noise from other sources that have poisoned that person before they ever got you in front of them. Then the second thing to do is to make sure that you are not talking to the wall. And Andy makes this point so clearly about taking down the wall, and that asking those questions is so important. It's not just good strategy. It's basic communications principles that you have to know. When you are talking to someone and you want to know if you got your message across, you're going to have an after survey. But the most important thing to do to make sure that you are resonating with them is find out before you start. And that's exactly what we're talking about here.
It's absolutely true, and we have to ask the question, ask the questions, ask questions, ask questions, because that's the best way to get to know what kind of message that person is going to want to hear. And I absolutely understand why our side wants to just shout the truth, because we are not heard. You have to realize that your non-political friends are hearing liberal political messages 20 or 30 times a day. They will tell you they don't pay any attention to politics, but they do pay attention to media of some sort. And if you pay attention to media of some sort, you are unknowingly getting 20 to 30 liberal political messages every day. They're not presented to you as political messages. You don't know that what you're hearing is liberal politics. You're just hearing the messages. And so we have to take the countermeasures, and we have to take the initiative and talk about politics all the time, everywhere, to everyone. But we have to do it in the same way that liberals do, so that we're not talking politics, we're just communicating. But the method that the things that we are communicating are conservative messages. It's conservative philosophy. If you are a conservative, live conservatively, live as a conservative, be out and proud about your conservatism. And that means that when you communicate with your friends, you're communicating things and speaking conservative political messages just as part of conversation. And so it can become a counterbalance to the 15 to 20 liberal political messages that they're hearing from everybody else. We have to be better, because we're only getting 1 or 2 times to say our message. The other guys can be idiots because they get 20 opportunities every day. We only get 1, maybe 2. But we have to take those opportunities, and that means you have to be open about your conservatism to everyone. You have a right to be.
Leslie, isn't it amazing that we still get nearly 50% of the vote? And everything we've been talking about tonight, almost the entire conservative movement blows back. We're doing everything wrong, and we still get in the mid-40s.
It's because our stuff is right, and it's better, and enough people actually see that and say, you know what, they're a bunch of idiots, but they're right.
That's what I mean. And
they're a clown car, but they're right.
That's exactly right. And what I mean is, that's what I'm leading to is, we need to stop being so intimidated by the left having, they've got the media, they've got, entertainment industry, they got this, they got that. Let me tell you something. As a former liberal, they need all that because their message is awful.
Okay. And it's lies and all of that kind of stuff. Yeah.
None of it works. My gosh. All you got to do is say, let's see here. In the past century, 3 countries were cut in half by war: Vietnam, North Korea, and Germany. In each case, one went more capitalist, one went more socialist. In each case, the capitalist half produced far better living throughout all society. What are you going to do with that?
It's 100% success rate, guys. 100%. It's not just good.
It's and that's one out of a million arguments that we can throw out. It's so easy.
Yeah.
Their arguments are awful, and this is why they need all those advantages. And what I'm saying is, we've done everything wrong. Everything. We don't celebrate their heart of why they hold a view. We attack their head. of how they justify that view. Celebrate their heart first, then they'll listen with their mind. And if we do that, then all of that great advantage kicks in, and we convert people easily. And I just think it's fantastic. I think we should be very positive and excited, not about this election, but going forward. Well, we'll do our best in this one, of course. But I'm talking about starting in 2015. Let's get excited that we are doing this well, doing everything wrong. What does that mean?
Well, it certainly means that a little bit of effort can move that needle very far.
I remember back to the days of women's lib when the argument went that in order to succeed, a woman has to be twice as good as a man. Fortunately, it's not difficult. It's kind of that way with conservatism. In order for conservatism to succeed, we have to be twice as good in the real world as the, massive messaging and marketing machine of the Democrats. Fortunately, it's not hard. We don't have to own all of the media and own all of the music people and the movie people and the TV people. We don't have to do that. We just have to get marginally better than we are, because we are losing marginally.
I
Just need a few
appreciate
points.
I appreciate all that optimism and energy and gung-ho. Don't let it get people complacent. That you have to take into account the fact that the ground is uneven, and you have to persevere anyway. You cannot use that as an excuse to give up, that the left has, far outgunned and outmanned us. It's not acceptable to stop there, but to recognize that we have different capabilities, that we have different avenues open to us, and that our skills, with a little bit of polish, with a little bit of help, and with some refocus and redirection, can overwhelm them. And I think that's the best way to think about it, is you absolutely cannot afford to get complacent or to get discouraged. That these are things that work and that will continue to work, because conservatism is better when you give people a chance to get around the noise that's been put out there about it, and you get to the heart of it. Then it's absolutely going to win them. As Andy said, there are Republican single women walking around under the shell of all this, liberal blowhard propaganda. But you've got to get to it first. We're not talking at all about changing any of the messaging in the core values that we're talking about. We're talking about the delivery system to get that messaging and those values into people who otherwise wouldn't listen.
Right. Don't change the product, change the advertising. I mean, that's what we're talking about. And I hate when we get pushback about, oh, you just want to water it down, and in order to get more votes, you have to sacrifice your principles. No, you actually don't. We have to communicate our principles more effectively. That's all it is.
I don't want people to get complacent. I want them to see the opportunity.
And to see the light at the end of the tunnel. It is possible. Because I tell you, for the last couple weeks, I've been like, this is pointless. This whole political thing is just horrible. It's terrible. We're a bunch of losers. It's just terrible. I've been feeling very fatalistic about the whole thing. But, talking to you guys is very uplifting for me every week, because it's like, you know what? It's true. Our way is right. And and the people that move from being liberal to being conservative, very few move back. It's not like people are going, oh man, I tried that whole conservative thing, but it was so wrong, so I'm going to go back. That doesn't happen. And we really are massively worse at communicating, but we're only marginally worse at getting elected. So if we can get marginally better at communicating, we can probably turn around some elections and begin to turn around things. So, it's possible. I'm starting to feel like it is possible, and that's a good thing.
Oh, undoubtedly.
Yeah.
Undoubtedly.
And the other thing is that the way that we communicate, it's not just the way that we communicate our ideas, it's who's communicating our ideas, and it's good to have more than just the regular Well, it's better to have a diverse group. I mean, as I was talking about the people who are running in New Jersey being as diverse as they are on the congressional level, it's also important to have people like Julie out there, Julie Borowski messaging, and Fishy actually just shared someone who's apparently new in the conservative video making uh, milieu, I guess.
Ooh, big word, French word.
Yeah.
Milieu.
Ellie Mae, I'm not. She did a really great video, 10 Reasons I'm Not a Democrat. Um, from News Ninja. Okay, so from News Ninja, I'm sure everybody knows who News Ninja
Oh, yeah, she
is.
was a pink hair girl. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's very important. It's important to have those kind of messengers out there,
Mm-hmm.
and honestly, that's somebody who I think it would be good if we could get her on the refinery and talk to her a little bit, because she was also a former leftist and has grown up with a lot of Democrats in her family. So that would be, I think, an interesting conversation to have with Andy and just us talking about uh, changing the face of the Republican Party and making sure that we have some serious diversification going out there, and people who can actually talk to, it's good when you have a messenger talking to single women that actually are single women. I mean, it helps. I would think. Maybe that's just me being sexist, but and ageist, but I would
We
imagine that
speak at frequencies that you non-single women can't hear.
I would imagine that it would probably be an easier discussion to have between two single women than it would be between Andy, just face value. Andy has better ideas and he has the way to communicate.
But he's a
But
guy,
the
and
idea, we're talking about old white men with Packers fans.
oh my God, he
who-
just called you old, Andy.
So, I got to get my hits in when I can. Uh, but it would be good if we could get her in and talk with her, and I think that's something that I'm gonna try and try and get her on the refinery one of these days. Before we close up the end of the show, and after I gave that nice little jab there to Andy, I think we should probably talk about the Party of Choice's new video, which came out yesterday, and 30-second ad hits really really hard and gets to a important demographic, just like we don't have great messaging generally against, when it comes to women. The youth is another area where we need to vastly improve our communication skills, and I think that you guys have done it with this one.
Well, thank you. Are you talking about the Obamacare one?
Yes.
Yes. The main thing for me was just to show once again that we on the right are for choice and the left is for control. And use, because I think Obamacare is just such a classic example of how they want to control people. And so this is also the only ad we've ever made where I'm actually in front of the camera, which I didn't like. I like to direct. I like to be behind the camera. So that was very awkward for me. But yeah, it was a really good opportunity to tell people why, how Obamacare is controlling their lives. And because I don't think people think about that. They think it brings comfort. They think it brings guarantees. They think it brings assurances. I want to show them it brings control. And that's why I oppose it. And oh, by the way, we Republicans have ideas that we wouldn't have to hide till after the next election. You would like them right up front. So, yeah, 30 seconds. We try to do it quickly.
The visual of the prison bars was, I think, really an effective one, being trapped by Obamacare, and how the conservative idea is taking the bars away. I really like that. I thought that was an interesting and a great way to look at it.
Yeah, and hats off to Stian, the guy I make it with. That's just what was happening in my head, and I had to get it through him to get it to happen on screen, and he just does such a great job of that. So it's pretty cool.
Awesome. I'm glad that you guys. I mean, every ad that you guys put out, that's a little bit closer to getting the messaging back up to what it should be for the party. So I'm so glad and thankful for what the Party of Choice has been doing in that regard and getting those ads out there. And it's super important what you guys are doing.
Thank you. It's because it's a lot of work. We appreciate it.
Fishy, what's that about the Facebook ads? Okay, never mind. Go ahead. Come on.
No, there was recently news that Minnesota, one of the large insurers, has just pulled out of the state, and so a whole bunch of people who thought they were going to be able to keep their insurance are not, because we can't do cross-state line insurance solutions, and that would be an interesting targeted, kind of promoting that video in the Minnesota market might be a good idea.
I don't even know. I'm afraid I'm not the tech savvy type. I don't know how to target these.
I'll talk to your wife about it. We'll work it out, okay?
But you do. I speak and make things. She actually makes the world go round.
See,
I just live on
it. And that's why it's good that you guys are a team, because it would be bad if we don't have these ads out there.
And I think it's nice to have Andy in front of the camera every now and then.
That should be the last.
Old
that.
and decrepit as he may be.
What?
You're very actually if you're actually very effusive. I mean, you were kind of like all bouncy around all over the place. It was kind of funny.
Well,
you're very expressive. You very much talk with your hands, just like I do. So I appreciate that.
I've always wanted to see more of Andy in front of the camera ever since the beginning of knowing them, but having met him and been in the same room with him, that needs to be a thing. I'm just saying.
I feel very awkward and shy.
Corey, we need to make a note. We need to surreptitiously record Andy talking in that kind of way and then make ads out of that. Okay, you down with me, girl?
She went to bed.
Okay. So
okay, but this is still being broadcast live, so it can be it'll be on YouTube, and it can be clipped out, and Fishy can send it to Corey so that Corey knows to do that.
Right, and it is still being recorded live, and we should probably fix that.
Yes, I think our episode is done for the day.
Bye.
It's been a great refinery as usual. It's the best part of my week.
Yes, it has been, and we thank everybody who was watching live and with us in the chat, and watching via YouTube. And we will see you guys next week, 8:30 on Tuesdays. Have a good week, everybody.